Hey world, thanks for tuning in again. This is Copper Color Ty. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share today's video, China Unearthed, uncovering the Chinese Aboriginals. I felt the need to do a video on the connection us melanated people have with the Chinese. So let's go.
There are portions of the Great Wall that look like these walls I saw in California.
I'm really impressed by the walls in your photo. They don't resemble the Ming Dynasty wall we are standing on right now, but they look very similar to portions of the Great Wall people were building here in China around 200 BC.
That's amazing.
A lot of the older parts of the wall, recently uncovered in Inner Mongolia in northern China, look like the walls in these photos. If you wouldn't have said these were in California, I would have thought you were showing me photos of the walls in northern China.
Well, this is really encouraging to hear. Is there anything around here that you could show me?
Sure, no problem.
I can't believe there are walls in northern China that look so much like the mystery walls in northern California. Hard evidence like that convinces me I'm on the right track. I've gotten special access to see a so-called wild wall that demonstrates how many construction styles were used to build the Great Wall. Unfortunately, it's not exactly like the walls in northern China Mr. Dong told me about. But it's easy to see the Chinese were using different building techniques. Well, this is a lot different than what we saw with all the tourists. This has not been kept up.
Now he says, unfortunately, it's not like the walls in northern China he was told about. And he says, it's easy to see the Chinese were using different building techniques, which is 100% incorrect. If you know what to look for, you will automatically see the Chinese had similar building techniques to the indigenous melanated people of America. China has mounds that predate the modern Chinese. So does America, that predate the modern Native American. China has cliff dwellings and cave dwellings that also predate the modern Chinese. America does too, that predate the modern day Native American. He says, unfortunately, it's not like the walls in northern China he was told about. My opinion is even better. When the Asian guy mentioned, if you would not have said these were in California, I would have thought you were showing me photos from the walls in northern China. Same goes for the structure that was a part of the Wild Wall in China. If the Asian guy would not have said this structure was in China, I would have thought he was showing me photos from one of the ancient cliff dwellings found in North America. This is important. A huge similarity. This is what they say the ancient cliff dwellings found in North America were used for. These cliff dwellings could only be reached by climbing and made for a great defense system. Key 2 words, defense system. Listen to the Asian guy, okay? Now, you tell me if there were some type of similarities or some type of comparisons when it comes to their building techniques, okay? They might have been different, but once you hear the Asian guy speak, tell me at the same time were there some type of similarities or comparison.
Where people live, it's closed to all tourists in order to maintain and preserve what's left.
And what was this structure used for?
This part of the wall is referred to as enemy defense. They would store weapons here, as well as soldiers to stand guard and watch for enemies approaching.
As you can see, both structures are some type of brick, square, clayish type of material. And both structures, the bricks are stacked. You can see as they are building these structures, they are stacking the bricks in similar ways. Okay, so are there actual cliff dwellings in China? Of course, absolutely. That predate the modern day Chinese people. There's cliff dwellings all over the world that predate the modern day people of that land, of that continent, of that soil. Okay, and out here in America, the melanated people that call themselves Black and African American, don't know that they are the original people of this land. All right. And they are the ones responsible for all these ancient structures that we don't know about. That's why they stopped us from learning and reading and writing. It was against the law. You could die, you could go to jail. Okay. There's another similar building technique we had with the Chinese when it comes to these ancient cliff dwellings. They are smack dab in the middle of the forest, tucked off deep into the mountains. The cliff dwellings in China also have caves. So does the ancient cliff dwellings in America. They also have caves. If you look to the right of this green mark, you will see a little black spot. That is a cave. They had these caves all around the premises of this ancient cliff dwelling found in Arizona. All right, so we can't just have photos. Let's try to see if we can find some type of footage of these ancient cliff dwellings found in China. Let's go to China, shall we? Another very important thing to note about these ancient walls found in California and northern China is that some of these boulders that were used to build this wall weighed a couple of tons. Some weighed up to 20 tons. That is 40,000 pounds. Okay. An average human being cannot lift 40,000 pounds. But is it possible that a giant could? A 18-foot giant, 12-foot giant, 15-foot giant? Wait a minute. Did giants really exist? Do or did giants even exist? If you watch my previous video, you will see that yes, giants did exist. And it is very possible that one of these huge giants that were also a part of the human family could easily have lifted these huge boulders that were used to create these ancient walls found in California and northern China. And in some cases, there were more than one huge giant found. There were a whole tribe of giants found. Imagine the strength.
High above Berkeley, California, is a series of mountain ridges that extend for miles. On the very top of this mountain ridge are a series of walls that go on for up to 50 miles, both north and south of this particular spot. As to who built them, no one has a clue. What at first seems like a series of field walls turns out to be not the case. The first Spaniards who got into this area found these stones in place. Some of the landowners put up fences that parallel the walls. The walls are heavily eroded. There's lots of debris, trees growing up out of them. But if you look closely, you'll see the pattern. This is at the very top of the ridge. Some of the boulders weigh up to 20 tons, and they're made of basalt, a type of very dense volcanic stone.
So now that we established the similar building techniques we had with the Chinese, let's dig a little deeper, because the education system has never told us that we had any type of connection with the Chinese culture. So let's see. Let's keep digging. Black Asians from various dynasties, Xiao, Shang, and many others migrated from Asia thousands of years ago to the regions now known as North, South, and Central America. These Black Asians mixed in with Black natives who were already occupying these lands. This explains why some natives or indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians, have high cheekbones and slanted eyes. This type of image of the native of the Western Hemisphere has been widely promoted. Other natives who do not possess these features were carved out of history. To promote how other natives looked would not have been a balancing move for the colonizers. The oldest human skeletal remains in China are those of indigenous melanated copper-colored people. Indigenous African skeletal remains found south of the Yangtze River in China date back 8,000 years. Many scholars and laymen alike have recognized similarities between ancient China and Africa. Both the Chinese and West Africans had a mound culture that possessed similar burial customs and common symbols. Also, if melanated Chinese Aborigines migrated from Asia to America thousands of years ago, then of course the first two dynasties of China were founded by indigenous melanated people. These indigenous melanated people may have been from Africa, may have been from America. What matters is the first two dynasties of China were indigenous copper-colored melanated people, or melanated Aborigines. First civilizations were called Jia and Chang. They were ruled by emperors called Jian, indigenous melanated emperors. But due to reclassification, these indigenous melanated Aborigines are known as so-called black emperors. These indigenous blacks introduced farming and writing to China. Trade, cities, and travel grew under their leadership. In addition to writing, the indigenous blacks of Jian and Chang introduced bronze working to China. They also invented the pounded earth architecture with early Chinese city-states. Indigenous blacks founded many civilizations, not only empires in China, but empires of the world. There was an extensive mound culture in China stretching from its plateau in the west to the western coast of the Pacific Ocean. As you can see, the mounds were constructed by the ancient mound builders. We know who the mound builders are. This is where it gets interesting. Just like the ancient mounds found in America, some of the mounds in China were also served as burial places, religious or spiritual centers, and habitation. Not only that, the Chinese mound culture began around 3000 BC, 1,000 years after a similar culture had developed in Africa. So, if the Chinese mound culture began around 3000 BC and 1,000 years before Africa already developed a mound culture, that means America or Turtle Island is the first, if not the first, definitely one of the first mound cultures to exist. The Watson Break Mounds located in Louisiana and the Shell Ring complexes located along the shorelines of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida both predate the erection of the pyramids in Egypt. So there's a big possibility that the mound builders of America taught the Africans and the Chinese how to build these ancient mounds. Well, it looks like I reached the end of my video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to enlighten some of you out there. Again, please like, share, subscribe today's video. This is Copper Color Ty. Blessings, and y'all have a good one. Holla back.